Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I want to talk about all the books that I finished up through June 15th. The first one is a DNF. It is Moondance by S.P. Somtow, originally published in 1989. It is a cross between a Western and a horror book. This book actually started off pretty good. It's in the late 60s. A woman is driving out to a remote insane asylum to interview a man who committed some rather grisly murders in his youth. And from there, she starts talking to him. He is supposedly cured. He had multiple personality disorder, and one of those personalities was the killer. But that killer has been suppressed. Maybe. And this insane man starts talking about his youth. And he's talking about the Old West, where they're talking about the Indians, and they're talking about werewolves. And there's parts that's set in Europe in the 1880s, where the werewolves came from. And it was going along pretty good. I got through about 298 pages out of around 700. But then I sort of lost my way. It's one of those reading experiences when you pick up the book and you got to ask yourself, okay, which character is this? What storyline are they talking about? Because this book had a few storylines. They had the modern day storyline, which was pretty easy to identify. You had a storyline featuring some Native Americans. You had a storyline set in Europe. And then you had the storyline of this boy who may or may not be a werewolf. And I totally just lost track of where the story was going. So I DNF'd it. There are parts of it that were really good, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't catching fire with me. And if you follow MJ at Reading This Life, she loved this book. And she mentions that the book has a lot of wolf pee. And yes, there is an awful lot of talk about urination in Moondance. Having failed with Moondance, I wanted to continue with June on the Range, so I picked up Wildcat Roundup, The Gunsmith, number 29 by J.R. Roberts. This is what I like to call a naughty Western, or what some people like to call cowboy trash. It is the story of Clint Adams, who is a fabulous gunman. And he gets into a gunfight close to the border with Mexico, and it's going to go all right, but he just doesn't want to deal with that issue. So he takes up an offer from a man from Paraguay to go all the way down to Paraguay to hunt a jaguar that is killing off his livestock. Now, I'm going to say this, that I don't think this author did a lick of research to figure out what's going on in the West, near the border of Mexico, especially what's going on in Paraguay, because you get about a chapter or two of traveling down, and there's just something off. It's like he does not know how to get a man from the border of Mexico down to Paraguay very well. But that's really not the point of this book. The point of this book is for Clint Adams to get into some gunfights and to watch the ladies drop their clothes when they get behind closed doors. Because when Clint Adams is in the room, a woman, especially a young, beautiful woman, just can't keep her clothes on. And that is the essence of this series. I guess it's technically a Western because it started off in the Old West and it headed down to Paraguay, kind of this mixed genre thing, but it's still erotic, it's still naughty. It's never going to be a great book, None of this Gunsmith series I think will be great books, but you know, I had fun reading it because Clint, he gets his ladies. Last week, I also failed reading a Louis L'Amour novel. That was The Daybreakers. And Louis L'Amour is sort of essential reading for June on the Range. So I decided to take the easy road, and I went to my local library where, lo and behold, they had the collected short stories of Louis L'Amour. And this is volume 7. So I got this out and I read 2 short stories. West is Where the Heart Is and The Turkeyfeather Riders. Neither of these short stories was top-notch in my opinion, but they feature a man who is good with a gun, and he's facing up some bad guys who are basically trying to swindle people out of land in both stories. And of course, the man with the gun is going to win, and he's always getting a beautiful lady at the end of the story. Now, the beautiful ladies at the end of the L'Amour stories don't get quite as naked as they do in J.R. Roberts, but you know, Louis L'Amour is the better author in the end. I belong to an in-person book group, and someone in that group picked All That I Dread, a canine search and rescue novel by Linda J. White. I'm rather certain that this is a self-published novel. There is nowhere under the cover of this book that I can detect a publisher. And this is supposed to be a story of an ex-policewoman who had an unfortunate situation where her partner died, and she's now a private investigator. But she wants to join the Virginia Canine Search and Rescue Group. And this is basically a group of volunteers with dogs that help seek out lost people or dead people. And she's training to be part of that group. And it's a good setup because on one of her first tests, her dog, Luke, discovers a dead body in the Prince William Forest. And of course, that person was murdered, probably from a serial killer. So now it's all set up. And this narrator is in love with one of the trainers of the search and rescue group. And the man is kind of in love with her. But they are both damaged individuals. They both have issues in their past. Now, the man lead has found his solution to the issues of life in religion. Do I need to say what religion that is? And he's subtly talking about his religion to the young detective woman who wants to join this group. And this book, while on the surface is about a mystery finding a serial killer, it has lots of dogs. And the dogs are absolutely the best characters in this book. But the author is setting it up. They're setting up the characters to so the narrator of this book can join this person, her trainer's religion. And what I really dislike in books is proselytizing. If you write a book in a certain area of history at a certain time, some characters are going to belong to certain religions. That is just realistic. Even in the modern day, people belong to certain religions. And it's okay to have characters that are religious. But what I do not want is that the author is setting up those characters to find, let's just say, hope and salvation within that religion. So there is a scene around page 200 where the two main characters are talking, and the author is being a little sly and a little subtle, but she is pushing her main character to join her trainer's religion. And I just had to say, nope, This is not the book that I want to read. You can keep your proselytizing to yourself. So this is a DNF for me. And I will probably be skipping my in-person book group this month. I also finished an audiobook, King, A Life by Jonathan Eig. I did read this for the BookTube prize, even though I'm not currently a judge in this quarter. I am almost positive that King is going to make it through this quarter and into the final round. I do intend to be a judge in the final round of the BookTube prize for nonfiction, so I am glad that I read this book. Unfortunately, I can't tell you much about the book in case other BookTube prize judges happen to watch this video. I want them to make their own decisions about this book. I am moving right along on my reading of Ulysses by James Joyce. I belong to a reading group that I run with Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics, and we have just a fantastic group of readers that are reading this book together. This is the kind of book that it really helps to read with a group, so you can talk about what you are reading. And there are different styles of reading this book, and each person who's reading it approaches this book just a little bit differently. And I appreciate everyone in that group who is moving along with me and getting this book read. It is a complicated book. There are some chapters in here that are just mind-numbingly hard to get through. Chapter 9 was one of those. Those are the ones that I just recently finished. But overall, I'm enjoying my read of this book. I do not think it's going to make it to the top of my favorite novels of all time, but I'm going to be very happy to have read this book. And it's going to feature in more wrap-up videos as time progresses. Okay, that is a wrap for what I finished through June 15th. In the coming week, it is still June on the range, so you can expect to see some more reading of Westerns. And of course, my continuation of Ulysses by James Joyce. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.